pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now on that issue, a lot's been going on in the state, and what we've been trying to do is organize around the state to try and fight issues like the S.A.F.E Act, other things that are going up in Albany. As you know, there's a lot of legislation that's pending right now that's going to be injurious to the state, injurious to business. Now one of the people that's been involved with that, and one of the people that we've been talking to and working with across the state, not only a bunch of organizations like ours that exist in every county, 150 of them at last count as far as I know, but there's an organization up there upstate that we are very familiar with. It's called Turn Albany Upside Down. How many are you familiar with that? Well, they've been a sponsor for some of the gun rallies up in Albany. They've been involved in lobbying the legislature, trying to do some actions over in the Senate, opposing some of the crazy actions of this governor that we happen to have, who seems more interested in running as a liberal Democrat to get some oomph and maybe some future primaries as a president. But there are people out there like us who are opposing these people all around the state. And I want to bring one of those people up here today. He's a former candidate for the governor of New York State, Carl Paladino. Carl is one of those guys, you know the old story when you're growing up, your dad would say to you, put up or shut up. I know that's the way I was brought up. And Carl's one of those guys also. He just came off of a big campaign up in Buffalo to get involved directly in education up there. They have an urban school district that's got a lot of problems, a lot of corruption. I'll let him talk to you about it. But he decided to do something about that. He ran an election to run for the school board up there, the city school board, with a platform. I guess turn the school board upside down? I would presume is probably it. He won with about 80% of the vote in an urban school district. I want Carl to come up here and say a couple of words about what he's doing, some of the action he's doing, a little view of what's going on in New York State, both at the state level and some of the local issues that are affecting us right now. Carl Paladino.
People live way out here on this island. We left Manhattan at 4 o'clock. We got here at 6:35. It takes me 7 minutes to get home from work. 7 minutes. All right, first. I'm absolutely not running for governor of the state of New York or for any other public office. Please, thank you. I'm the kind of guy that can do things and say things that I know others can't do and say. I'm all right with that. I think there's a role for a guy like me. I can light things up. I have a spotlight that gives people transparency, gives you a little bit of fulfillment, and that's what I did in the last couple of months in recognizing that our totally dysfunctional City of Buffalo Board of Education was never going to change unless I got involved. So I got involved. Our school board elections up in Buffalo are held in May, purposely to politicize them. The May election attracts roughly 3 to 4% of the electorate. Obviously, it's fixed. It's been like that. And that's one of the main reasons that they became so dysfunctional over time. An entrenched attitude that they can just keep going on and on and on, doing things the same way, maintaining the status quo, and somewhere in there, some miracle will happen and his kids will all of a sudden get an opportunity for education. It's never going to happen. So I decided to run, and all of a sudden, the awareness that I brought to the table brought out 25% of the electorate. And 80% of them voted for me. So it was a recognition by the community, finally, that this acceptance of mediocrity, this acceptance of failure, this complacency had to come to an end. Because it was so wrong. $965 million budget for roughly 30,000 students. $26,900 per student. Think about this. Last year, on the English statewide standardized test, 31% passed. Passed. Excuse me. On the English, it was 26%. On the math, it was 31%. The dropout rate is 46%. The dropout rate, the graduation rate for black males is less than 20%. These are the numbers. The third most expensive school district in America, totally failing. I just got off the phone with the State Commissioner of Education. And I asked this guy. I wrote him a letter and said, I'd like you to do two simple things. And I just listened to Albany speak. I won't get into all the particulars of that. But that's just the way it's going to be. It's just the way it is. I think my role is to connect the dots for people. To show you and illustrate to you so that you can pass it on, and it keeps getting passed on and passed on and passed on, that we can actually rise up and do something about the misery that we call Albany. We can. It's doable. It's not painful. It could actually be fun. I have a sick idea of fun. I wake up every morning and I say, who can I mess around with today? And that's the way I am. But you too can enjoy some of that fun. It's good, it's energizing. It's watching them slither back under the rocks. Planarians, they call them. That's a worm-like creature that lives under rocks. Boyle, Martins, Cannon, yeah. RINOs. RINOs. Republicans in name only. RINOs. Hey, Dean, what are we doing today? Hey, why don't we pass the S.A.F.E Act? It'll ingratiate us again with Andrew, you know. Andrew, he wants to move on. He wants to go into higher office. So we can help him get there by giving him another Andrew bill. Let's give him the S.A.F.E Act. Big mistake. Mistake. They made it. So look at this thing, this S.A.F.E Act, this infringement on a basic right of Americans. Look at that as opportunity. This is an opportunity. This guy is sweating. Yesterday he comes out and says, it wasn't us, it was Bloomberg's people wrote the bill. Did you read this? Bloomberg's people did it. I didn't even read it. That's what he says. He didn't read it. Nobody read it. Obviously. They passed the bill that Bloomberg wrote that nobody read. Oh, by the way, Andrew, you did sign a certificate of necessity.
Right.
You didn't read it? But you felt it was so necessary that you signed a certificate of necessity, which took away the 3-day period for the bill that was supposed to sit on the desk. Wow. And Dean, What a great guy that Dean is. Hey Dean, this is Andy. I need another one. No? We'll treat you all right. We'll give your law firm some more business, okay? We'll pump some more business over to you. And Shelley, you'll be really happy too. It's sad. It's sad what we have allowed to become. Just as that school board in Buffalo got so far off track, we have allowed Albany 4,600 lobbyists. And what did Boyle and Martins and Hannon, why did they abandon the values that they promulgated when they were running? Why did they abandon those? Why did they say goodbye, CSA, goodbye, all you citizens? It's not hard to figure out. You were replaced by the Senate Campaign Finance Committee. They don't need you anymore to get elected. They're going to get tons of money from Dean, who manages the money that goes into that treasure trove that comes out at election time and finances the TV and the nonsense that you hear, all the lies and fabrications. I'm connecting up the dots. Dean Skelos is a traitor. He's a treacherous swine. Instead of providing an opposition government, here, remember this, it takes 3 to tango in Albany. 3. The Senate, the Assembly, and the governor have to all, in one form or another, agree to something before it can happen. Now here's Dean Skelos out of the 2010 election. He's got a majority. He's got control. His vote means something. Bruno and Anderson, what would they do with that power? They knew how to manage that power for the good of their party and for the growth of their party and the stability of their party and the people. And not Dean Skelos. You can go right into that law firm, that idea that law firm sends him a check. It's so simple. We don't know how much the check is, but you know he's well taken care of. And he's taking care of his friends and family club. And for that, he gave up his values. The horror, though, is that our elected representatives don't do anything about it. They continue to go there and keep him in office. They vote him in there. Why? Because it's a feeding frenzy. It doesn't matter if you're Republican, Democrat, or whatever. You're complicit in the Albany Establishment Club. And they're all feeding on it. And they the leaders give a few breadcrumbs to the members, and the members bring them home and say, hey, look at me, I'm your hero. Here's the breadcrumbs they gave us. Okay? They didn't give us tort reform. They didn't give us malpractice reform. They can't even do anything about the silly scaffold law, which we're the only state in the country that has. We have environmental regulations that are totally, absolutely ridiculous. They require the removal of non-friable asbestos with the same procedures as friable asbestos. We're the only state in the country that does that. At a huge, huge expense to development. And the genius yesterday, what did he come out with? Oh, let's create some more on level playing field. We're going to now, and this is part of spin, okay? He's trying to spin out of the S.A.F.E Act. He's trying to spin out of some of this other stuff that he should be doing something about. And he's saying that he's going to create these tax-free zones near universities. Now, what does that say to the widget maker, okay, who sits there and pays the silly taxes to support all this nonsense that comes out of Albany? What does that say to him when they invite a competitor to come in and get subsidized with our tax dollars so you can compete with the tax-paying competitor making widgets. It makes sense. It creates an unlevel playing field. It fails immediately. It's as bad as the UDAG era, it's as bad as empire zones and all the rest of that nonsense. That creates unlevel playing fields. That has destroyed commerce, destroyed manufacturing, destroyed incentive in New York. Why would you ever come to a state like this and put your business here when you haven't got a clue what that progressive liberal elitist government's going to do tomorrow to make you uncompetitive? Whether with regulation, with subsidies to your competition, with whatever. You think about these things, and there's an answer for our failures, for the failure. I mean, the tax burden that you carry out here. And Sullivan was just telling me about the Shoreham thing. I had no idea. No idea that your utility bills are trumped up by that nonsense. Just had no idea about that issue. Terrible. But this is something. This is a time. One of the reasons when Steve said, "Would you come down and speak?" and I said, "Yeah," was because I think it's so timely right now that something can be done because we've got them back on their heels. The S.A.F.E Act thing was a huge, huge mistake. They woke up a lot of people. And the Reagan Democrats, you're every Democrat. And all across the spectrum, they woke people up. They said, wait a minute, what's going on? What is this nonsense? And yeah, I think what Steve said, this guy he wanted to go to the left of Obama because he saw that ice cream wins the White House. Give them ice cream. Cell phones. No requirements. Just keep giving them that chocolate covered ice cream. And they'll vote for you, they'll do anything. Nancy Pelosi.
We don't use that language in here.
You wonder how these people, it's incredible. But I do feel that this is an opportune moment. I think Andrew is having trouble. My moles in his office tell me that he's just not capable of handling it right now. Because they live with illusion. They live with this ability at theatrics and illusion, the ability to come out and spin us. That whole thing recently about abortion, late-term abortions, and being included in this women's rights bill and all that, raising that bill, and you know there's something, you're saying, why do they do these things? But you can't necessarily put your finger on it. Well, it's spin. They're late in the session. They're going to be done pretty soon. They're going to go home. They're trying to get out of there without addressing the more important issues that we've all been waiting for them to take on. Why does government have to pay more to have a building built, to maintain a property? Why does government have more than the private sector and Joe Citizen? Why do we have a Wicks law? Why do we have a Taylor law? Why did we include every state employee in the Taylor law protection? Yes, if police and firemen go on strike, maybe we got to give them binding arbitration, and that's okay. But why do we have to give it to the environmental conservation or the DEC people? Why do we have to give it to teachers? Why do we have to give it to all these other public employees? Let them strike if they want. Let them exercise their rights. But we gave them a triborough amendment. All right? The Taylor law is bad enough. We gave them a triborough amendment. Continuation of terms. It's debilitating. It's killing us. Killing everybody. It's just not right. In Buffalo, our teachers get cosmetic surgery. What does that mean? It means This stuff, okay, it means, liposuction and all that other stuff. For the wife and the kids and everybody. $19 million. It's not fair. Not fair to the taxpayers. They have to be picking that stuff up. I can go on and on and on about the substantive and the different areas of treachery, if we want to call it. My point here, though, is that you can do something about it when it comes to exercising your right to speak, exercising your right to join in any campaign you feel like it, to support whatever candidate you want. And when somebody makes a promise to you and doesn't keep it, like Mr. Martins, show them with a vengeance. Show them. And you'll set a tone for the future. The New York State Assembly minority caucus leader is a guy named Brian Kolb from up somewhere next near Rochester. Brian Kolb made a statement last week to the Republican minority caucus that they should not comment on Sheldon Silver and the fact that Sheldon Silver may have done something wrong in using public funds to settle a private matter. He said, if asked by the press, just tell them you didn't vote for him. But don't say anything else. Now, why would Brian Kolb, who's supposed to be leading the opposition in the Assembly, why would he be so supportive? Well, I'm going to tell you a little Albany secret, which most people in Albany know, but the public doesn't know. Brian Kolb had his own little Vito Lopez incident that Sheldon Silver bailed him out on. Sheldon Silver owns him. And here, the most complete, supposedly the powerful guy, the most powerful guy in the Assembly Minority Caucus is conflicted. And nobody calls him out. And most of those assemblymen know it. But that stuff will continue as long as we allow it. We have people, you got Jay Lavelle. John Jay, whatever his name is. This guy like Lavelle, Savino, didn't even live in the Bronx. Rada, DeProspero, you got county chairs who are bad guys. They're RINOs. They're all on the public thing, feeding at the public trough. I keep digging my own holes here. I'm non-scripted. But they're part of the problem too. As a result of that, you get Ed Cox, who is so weak as a state leader, commands no respect. We went to his dinner last night. If I hadn't dragged the county chairs, the Republican county chairs from Erie County and Onondaga County up here with me, they wouldn't have gone. There were a total of 5 county chairs out of 62 attended the state Republican annual dinner. How many legislators were there? None. They made up some excuse they were tied up in Albany.
You're right.
So, I mean, the Republican Party is in shambles right now. Don't run from it. Grab it. It's ready to be picked. It's ready to be grabbed. The foundation is all there. These people that keep saying we have to form another party, we got to do this, we got to have a Tea Party, we got to have this party, that party. It doesn't work. This party is there right now. The rank and file illustrated very clearly in my primary. They came out in droves, all of you, to make a statement that the establishment, they had enough of the establishment. They had enough of the same old, same old, same old, and that's all Lazio was telling everybody. A big statement was made. The same statement was, but then those people that I told you about just now, okay, in going for the final, they said, we can't have him there. I had a guy who was a primary candidate who sat outside the conference room where the executive committee of the state Republican committee was meeting, sat outside the conference room and overheard a conversation inside where they said, if Paladino wins this primary, this is a couple days before the primary, if Paladino wins this primary, we all got to lay down on him. That's a true statement. That's the game that they played again with Wendy Long last year. Here's a great candidate. She would have been awesome. They abandoned her. I watched the hijinks. I caught it. It was too late. She was deprived of the second vote. They didn't give her 15 minutes. They were doing the roll call again. Everybody had got up and left, and they denied her the opportunity to have the endorsement. They forced her to go through a primary, and they laid down on her. They wouldn't even put up her signs. They wouldn't help her. They sent a couple goons in to handle her campaign. And the poor woman, we met with her last night. She's sad. But that's what they do. We know their game. We can play that game if we're united, if we're unified in our approach, and if we take advantage of the opportunity. And the opportunity is there now. You've got one hell of a leader here.
Oh, yeah.
That's sidekick, if you remember. That's sidekick, yeah. Up and over. She's something. With that, I think it best maybe I just say to you, I'm willing to answer any questions that you might have if somebody wants me to comment on something.
You're going to tell me everybody here's quiet. Go, Joe!
Mr. Paladino, we love you.
Thank you.
We're all sorry that you won't be running again, but we do understand.
It was very difficult. It wasn't necessarily on me. It was difficult on my family. You know, I mean, that was abusive.
When you don't have the support of the party,
Yeah.
it's like fighting two battles. We understand that. We go through it here all the time.
I think
They
we're
come
more
to us when
effective.
they want something. Right. Now all of a sudden they're waving Gadsden flags all over the place in public. Right here. You know?
I think there's an opportunity here to grab that party and take it away. You see, the weighted vote is upstate, and the control is upstate. I've been trying to encourage some of these county chairs upstate to take it away. I mean, here we are, the great majority are out of Long Island and upstate, the great majority of the Republican rank and file, and we've got a guy from the city who, if you could sit there and listen to Richard Nixon's stories forever and ever and ever, okay, you'll enjoy his company. But beyond that, you know, it's we found out last night they had Ted Cruz, the senator from Texas. And we found out today from a source that Mr. Cruz was specifically told, I can say this because I'm not, right? He was specifically told, do not comment on Andrew Cuomo or on the S.A.F.E Act issue here, or tonight. So he stayed away from that issue, which surprised us all. We thought that, you know, he was coming in to rally the troops and whatever. He was told that. The source of the dictate went from Dean Skelos to Ed Cox to the candidate, or to Cruz.
Skelos also did not show up.
Pardon?
He also didn't show up.
And Skelos didn't even show up for Cox at his annual dinner last night. Skelos has to go.
Oh, yeah.
They say that a person who has a problem has to hit bottom before they can start to come back up. Maybe what has to happen is that the Republican Party has to lose all its power. We've got to just let the guys like, you know, the eight from Long Island down here that voted for the S.A.F.E, maybe we just let them all fail. And then rebuild from the tattered remains of the party. It takes time, you know. The hope would be, though, if you can raise the specter, if you can raise the energy level and the in your face, don't let political correctness control you. It's a conditioning that these progressives started advocating years and years ago, and we bought into it in many respects. I've never been politically correct. Call me crazy and everything. But don't let that control you, because that's one of their ways of controlling. That's the way the press... And one other thing here, something I recognized in my campaign. Here I am dealing with people in the press, and why they can't grab on and understand the things I was saying was baffling me. It was just driving me crazy. Until this consultant in the campaign said to me, look at them. Look at their age. They're 25, 23, 27, 28-year-old. They have no clue what responsibility they have. They have no history to reflect on. They have only known government as we have it today. I went into that Liz Benjamin after the election. I went right into her. I said, what the hell's wrong with you? I just was livid with the woman, because I had been reading her in the Post beforehand, and I thought she had good qualities, and she just didn't understand. They had no history of seeing it another way to reflect on. Albany was always a cesspool. It's going to continue to be a cesspool. I mean, they find things on these people like Sheldon Silver and this corruption, this culture of corruption, and they hit on it, and then the next day, oh, well, Sheldon Silver says this, and Sheldon Silver says that, and we're off to the races, and it's just like, wow, la la land. Where is the responsible reporting? It's not there. You can demand it. You can demand it by not buying the newspapers. You can demand it by just being vocal and saying enough, and keep writing letters to the editor until they do make the changes and put responsible people there. We can be active. We can change things. I've done it in my career, and it's such a good feeling. Then when I go in for the electroshock treatment.
You mentioned the fact that we have to sit by and watch the Republican Party disintegrate until it hits bottom.
I don't want to see that, though.
So
It already
here's the
has.
thing.
I think we could take it over without that.
Throw the bums out.
When we do that, we waste a lot of time. So what we can do is what is called an intervention. Raise the bottom
That's right.
until we can do something right now.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm encouraging that now. We had a couple people together last night. I'm encouraging that the upstate guys revolt. You're never going to do anything about Mandela, okay? You just got to build a bridge around him. Maybe you got to just build a parallel party there, okay? And make him, and just make him go away that way. Jay LaBelle, I think you guys could push him out whenever you want. I think he's ready to go. You just scandalize him, find something. Get a friendly cop to pull him over, and whatever. Get rid of him. Because he's no good. He's no good.
I'm assuming that Ted Cruz went along with the dictates that were proposed, since you didn't say otherwise.
He
Why
didn't
would-
talk about Andrew Cuomo, and they didn't talk about the S.A.F.E Act.
But
No.
why not?
Because he was told by the person that invited him not to.
So why, I mean, you talk about an opportunity to push back. If we can't have someone like a Ted Cruz say, I'm sorry, this is what I'm here for, these are my principles, I'm speaking out, until we start pushing back at the people who say, we're here to help you, we're lost.
I'm with you. I just, I was disappointed. Before the dinner, I was invited to a more private meeting with him with about 15 people. And the guy next to me who's got a confusing name, he was introducing him and saying all these nice things. And from what I had learned with Jackie telling me and briefing me and what I had read about Ted Cruz, as he was completing his description of him, I tapped him and I said, well, what about his cojones? And he says, cojones. I was saying it wrong. I was saying it the Italian, and he said, no, that's the Italian, this is the Spanish and whatever. All right. I said, whatever it is, okay. But that's the Ted Cruz. He says what we think. He seems to have that energy and that competency. He was summa cum laude out of Harvard. He seems to have those traits that we look to for leadership.
But yet
he listened. Well, when your host tells you, please stay away from this topic, I think you do it. I mean, I can appreciate that. And if the host asks you to stay away from it, you stay away from it. And that's what I think happened. So that's life in a big city.
Steve Flanagan, right. Starts at 2 of you.
Well, then we probably wouldn't be invited to many parties, to speak. If I mean, I don't think there's any candidate yet to be governor of the state of New York out there that I can identify with. Hopefully there will be. That's why I'm encouraging a move. I'm encouraging right now that we get the party cleaned up before 2014, before we get into that cycle, so that we can actually put up a good challenge for all the statewide offices. DiNapoli is not a shining star. Schneiderman is certainly a little sick puppy. All right, there's a lot of upside down there in that government that if we took one or two of those other statewide offices, winning the governorship, it's you got that big island over there, Manhattan, that is just a nightmare. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Brandon, if you don't mind, in your mention you were getting involved in education. Do you plan on doing anything about Common Core or something?
I can't. I'm sorry. Common Core. What do you want me to say about Common Core? Do I like it?
Are you doing anything against it? She's asking.
Pardon?
Are you doing anything to stop it or get rid of it? Yes.
Myself, right now, no. It's my focus right now, and I believe in focus. I got elected on May 7th. I take this board seat on July 1st. I plan on, and I've been approached by 150 people with 150 separate school board or school education related issues, including Common Core and the APPRs and the evaluation process and all this other craziness. It's this Albany monster that wants to micromanage education and take away the individual the power and or centralize it rather than leave it out there in the schools. Those things are issues that will only begin to be solved when you have great leadership. I'm focused right now on changing the leadership of the board leadership and the superintendent. So you're going to see those that are on my email tomorrow or the following day. Excuse me. I wrote a piece which is very destructive to her, to the superintendent, and I sent it to her and I said, I'm going to publish this. I'd really like you to resign beforehand, all right? She called me today, we're having dinner tomorrow. I just hope, do you have a phrase up here called Ralphing? Everybody know what Ralphing is? Yeah. I'm afraid she's gonna Ralph on me and my food. So, I'm going to try to address that with her tomorrow, and hopefully she will resign, and we'll then be able to get into the issues. I think good leadership will solve a lot of issues. But I also, just before I walked in the room, I talked to John King, the Commissioner of Education. I told him that I think that he's a status quo guy, and I just have no time for status quo, and I think he's got to get off his tail, and he has to decentralize and go back to the principals and the schools and the buildings, and let the principals be evaluated on their school. If a principal can't deal with a teacher, let him get rid of the teacher. Stop this nonsense, okay, of trying to dictate a policy out of Albany that is not doable out there in the trenches.
Yeah,
We've met before.
oh, yeah. We had, as far as this common board thing is concerned, the entire premise of this is for the federal government to take over all control of laws.
That's what Obama's about.
Right now, we have school boards that are dedicated to law and that's the ordinance. Keep the common core. Do our job.
The progressives want to control every aspect of your life. That's not what we're about. Okay? We've got to fight it everywhere. And we have to continue to fight it until they go away. They spent many, many years gaining the power that they have today. They have a president now. They got a guy sitting there who exudes everything that they've been about. And we allowed it to happen. Now we've got to do something about it. We've got to change it. We've got to register our kids. We've got to teach our kids. We've got to teach our friends, teach the cousins, teach everybody. Get them registered, get ready for the next one, because they're all set to put Hillary in there now. And that's, you know, she's not as bad probably, but she's no, I don't think anybody's as bad as Obama, really. I extremely dislike the man. Yep. Independence Party or independent? Independence Party.
I'm new to this, I'm a little. I'm baffled that we're so separated, Republicans, conservatives. If we were all on the same page and under the same roof, wouldn't we be stronger against the Democrats? Yes. I don't care what we're doing.
Go back to what we were talking about before, the RINO, Republican in name only. Just because they're a Republican doesn't necessarily mean that we philosophically have the same values.
But you weed them out.
Right, that's what we're talking about. Yes, you got it. That's what we're talking about.
Inviting them here.
Who? We invite them here. They're not here.
Stay for the rest of the meeting. That's all I'm telling you. I'll do that.
No, you hit it right on the nose. So.
They're afraid of us.
They don't like. No, you got to understand. A lot of people are afraid of vermin. Okay, but generally, when you confront a mouse or a rat, they run the other way. Okay, they can't handle us.
But it shouldn't be a confrontation.
Oh, it has to be a confrontation. We've tried to talk it. The Romans, I have a saying in my office, the Romans did not create a great civilization by having meetings. They did it by killing everybody that got in their way. There's no more being nice, Mr. Nice Guy.